Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and today I am once again joined by my friend Calvin in Seattle. What's up, Calvin?
What's up, Patrick? Thanks for inviting me back on.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you after a win. Last time, I think it was after game 2.
That's right, yeah.
The game 2 loss. And so, I'm glad you're on under better circumstances, man. So the Warriors, they won game 5 in Sacramento, 123-116. And man, that game was super exciting. I mean, all these games have been really, really good games. I mean, maybe that game 3 blowout was just good for Warriors fans, but I saw something in this game. I mean, what'd you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing was it was pretty close, right, throughout. I mean, there's a couple spots where I think maybe we pulled away by 10, but they kind of came back pretty quick. So it's pretty close, but I think ultimately my impression kind of midway through the third and into the fourth was that our experience showed up. If I were to summarize this, basically our experience showed up and their inexperience also showed up, as a counterpoint to that. I mean, you could see it in the closing minutes of the fourth. We made incredible shots and had a couple of great stops. And I think a lot, some of that was our energy, but a lot of that also was their inability to sort of rise to the game 5 occasions, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's how I would summarize it. It's basically championship medal.
Going into this game, and I think a lot of Warriors fans who've watched all season felt similarly. It was like, okay, we feel good about our chances. It's like, this is this veteran team, been through tough playoff battles, and they smell blood. They just need to get one in Sacramento, all the pressure's on them, and then, take it back to Chase Center and try to win it. But then there's that other side where they've been so, up and down all season long. And they've looked really bad in these scenarios where they'll win and they'll look like, quote unquote, themselves. Then all of a sudden they'll lose to like the Orlando Magic or the Detroit Pistons or something like that. And so it was like, which team are we going to see? We're still in that kind of Jekyll and Hyde feeling sometimes, right? But what really impressed me was like, okay, they came out with energy instantly. And, the Kings played well throughout and they matched to start. And it was like about weathering, the Warriors weathering that storm. They weren't, half-assing it. They were focused. There were some turnovers, some mistakes, but that just happens. But what really, really caught my eye was that they closed every quarter really, really well. I think they closed the second quarter well. Am I mistaken? I know that Clay hit some big shots towards the end of the second, and the Warriors had the lead. But end of the first quarter, they were down 3, but they had been down more, and they closed it. So that's solid. Second quarter, they're up. Third quarter, they put on a run, and then fourth quarter, Kings made their last run, and then they closed that. And I'll be honest with you, after watching all the games this season, I don't know if I've seen a game this year where they closed every quarter well. So that is a big deal to me. And that to me shows like what you're talking about, the championship medal, the DNA to just be like, okay, let's take care of business. And they haven't taken care of business so much this season. It was almost like, I forgot what this feeling feels like. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Totally. Like it's in many ways, this was reminiscent of the types of games that we had seen in seasons past. But I got to tell you, I was so nervous throughout the entire game because of what, having seen them all season, not play like this. Right. So, I mean, the shot making is another thing that sort of really stood out to me. Right. Like playmaking and really shot making, down the stretch. Like during the times when it really mattered, like we looked really, really good. And I was also really impressed with how we played in that first quarter because the Kings were hitting everything, man. Like it seemed like they could not miss from 3, and still to only be down by whatever it was. I think it was like 2 or 3 points, right? Like that's really good. So Yeah, it was a great game, fun and encouraging to see for what we can do in Game 6.
I've gotten into this habit of looking at the stat lines for, like, at the end of every quarter. And I was encouraged that I don't remember it exactly, but for the most part, after the first, like, turnovers, fouls, even, you know what I mean? We had more free throws. The Kings, they were lights out in the first quarter from three in particular, but that's going to fade away a little bit. I gotta say that looking just at the Warriors starters plus Draymond, they all did what they do well. Like Looney, 22 boards in 34 minutes, and 34 minutes for Looney is like an hour on the court for somebody else, And Wiggins, 9 for 16, 2 for 5 from three, 4 boards, 20 points. I mean, Steph, he was only 2 for 10 from three, but 12 for 25 overall, closed the game out. Clay was missing shots, but then ended up 5 for 11 from three, 10 for 19. Poole didn't shoot so well, but Draymond came off the bench, 8 for 10, hit a three, 4 boards, 7 assists, 4 steals, 1 block, 21 points. So, everybody raised their game. Dante DiVincenzo wasn't so great. Gary Payton, though, I do want to say that when he came in that fourth quarter, every play he made, every consequential play, he had a huge impact. Every time I was like, well, each play made me feel like better about the trade. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, okay, that's what it's for. That's what it's for. It's like, like we bought a new couch and I'm like, oh, every time I sit on this, it's like, I could just deduct that off the cost of it and it feels better. It feels better. It feels better. So for this trade, it's like, oh, every steal, every block, every dunker spot, dunk or layup, it's like, that makes it all go away. So I feel good about that, man.
Yeah, not to mention, I think Kevon also had 7 assists, which is pretty great. It's 20 second 20-point, second 20 rebound game, I think, of this series. And then I kind of felt like Game 6, Clay kind of showed up, a little early, right?
Yeah.
Like, after some of this, he had a little. He was a little hot, I think he could have had more if he hadn't gotten that 5th foul early in the 4th.
Yeah, when he got that 5th foul, that's when the Kings made their final run, and that made me really nervous because, like I said, DiVincenzo didn't play that great. He came in, he couldn't hit a shot. The Kings were playing tougher on Steph. They let DiVincenzo do what he wanted for a couple minutes, and that really, really worried me. And then when Wiggins got his 5th foul, I started getting worried too, because I was like, if this goes into overtime, we could be in a bad way. But yeah, in terms of, is this Game 6 Clay? I was like, I had to double check. I was like, wait, is this Game 6? And of course, it's not. What does this tell you about the state of the Warriors right now? How do you feel about them? And, how's this team looking to you?
I mean, it's really encouraging. They're looking better. So hopefully they can build on this momentum and have a great Game 6. I mean, I'm thinking, we'll close this out Game 6, right? And then carry that momentum into the next round. So I mean, right now I'm feeling pretty good. Obviously, we just came off, 3 wins. That's incredible. And so actually, that's the other really big takeaway. To be down 0-2 and looking, a little shaky, right? To come out like this and put 3 wins on the Kings, that shows a lot of grit. And so I think the announcers were all expecting the Kings to come back big and to put this into make this a 7-game series, but. The Warriors, to put 3 wins on the Kings like this in a row, that's pretty amazing. So I'm pretty encouraged.
Yeah, and if they win Game 6 to win 4 in a row against this team, and the fact that they'd only won 4 in a row, maybe twice, all season long, maybe 3 times, but definitely not more than that, I would be really, really encouraged. And as I've said, before, the Warriors have been in every game in this series, right? Like those first two games, what gave me confidence was the fact that they weren't blown out. They stumbled. They got beat by De'Aaron Fox in game one. They kind of tripped over themselves in game two. I was worried about those habits, and I'm sure those will kind of appear, if they continue into the postseason here and there. But just that they've kind of found who they are again, if that makes sense. And I think that Kerr tightening the rotation is big. I mean, Kuminga didn't play. Like my guy Kuminga, like he got 0 minutes, and I thought he would get a chance, but then once I saw the kind of first quarter, like the energy and the tempo and the flow of it, I was like, oh, maybe not, right? Because this one is intense. This is like tightrope, as few mistakes as possible. And, we saw Moody for 4 minutes in the first quarter, definitely first half, and he never came back. And I think that's because, Moody, of course, makes fewer mistakes lately, but also looking at the Kings roster, Moses Moody, actually, his athletic deficiencies, still matches up. He still matches up pretty well with a bunch of Kings players like Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles.
Yeah.
He's not going to get blown by any of those dudes. So I can see why Kerr plays him. But I like what I'm seeing. Draymond coming off the bench. I mean, I assume they do that in Game 6. Do they do that if they move on? I mean, it's matchup based, because if they play the Lakers, I think you might have to go bigger.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think you can play Dre off the bench against the Lakers.
Or Memphis.
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, Memphis, they might be able to get away with it, But I don't think I don't think they would, because they like the head-to-head matchup the way that we've played against them. So I don't think they would. But it seems like maybe it's one of those things that's in the toolbox now. That might become like part of like the option that Kerr pulls out, like if a series is not going his way. Yeah, I think I definitely, for this next game, they're doing it.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a gamesmanship thing, right? Where it's like, oh, they expect us to, but I doubt it. I think Brown's going to put his best lineup out there, and Kerr's going to put the lineup out there that's been working.
Were you surprised by De'Aaron Fox's effectiveness hitting 3 threes, I believe, in the first quarter?
I was. I mean, they came out super hot. Like not only did he hit those 3 threes, but like I think they got like another 3 threes from other players in that first quarter. And then I was surprised he missed a couple of shots that he normally makes. He missed like a mid range. I was like, oh wow, maybe that finger is bothering him. And he had that poke away afterwards where he was sort of holding his finger. So maybe that sort of contributed to his cooling off a bit. Coming out, I was like, wow. I mean, but then again, the Warriors came back. I wasn't worried about the shooting as much as I was worried about us not being able to get any sort of play going. Like the first 3 plays in the first quarter all ended up in like a one-on-one situation, like iso ball, kind of rescue the possession. And then the Kings got, 2 transition baskets. And then I forget like one other like really, I think it was a Sabonis drive down the middle, and it just looked way too easy, I think that was kind of more what I was worried about. I was like, wow, the Kings have really kind of gotten us rattled a little bit. But, throughout that first quarter, I just kept looking at the score. And so even though they were making shots and it looked like we weren't getting great plays off, we kept it close. So, I wasn't worried. I felt really good coming out of the first.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kept writing down, like, weather the storm. You knew that the Kings and their fans were going to be intense. And the Warriors, the first few possessions, like you said, I was like, oh boy. But they got through it, and they competed. And, the Kings fans are going crazy. And then you look at the score and it's tied. You know what I mean? Yeah. At a certain point in the first. And then, the Kings go on a run, the Warriors go on a run. And I mean, for me, like this series, unless something crazy happens, it's done. Um, I don't usually make those kinds of bold pronouncements, especially this season, because I don't like to tempt the basketball gods or jinx anything. But I mean, do you think they've figured something out about the Kings?
I think they figured something out about the Kings. Yeah, I do. I don't think you. I think that's one, and I think the other thing is they figured something out about themselves. Like they've like I finally sort of see that like next gear where they're cleaning up the play, and they're just they're making plays down the stretch, and they're getting stops when they need to, and like there were not nearly as many turnovers, I don't think, in this game as we've seen in other games this series. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that they have figured something out about themselves.
I agree with they've figured something out about themselves. I mean, the frustrating thing about the season is that they didn't feel like they were putting the effort in or the focus, and they were just coasting and all this stuff. And we know that winning these 16 games to win the finals is what really, really matters. But they weren't taking so much of the season seriously, not so much in a arrogant way, but just like they weren't respecting the game, if you want to use that terminology. And they're finally taking these games seriously, which is a kind of an odd thing to say now, that they're in the playoffs, because you assume that they were. And as you're saying, like finishing plays, doing all that stuff. And I think for the Kings, De'Aaron Fox, admirable effort, but if you 3 for 3 in the first from 3, or at least he hit his first 3, and then he ended up 3 for 10. He ended up 9 for 25 on the night, so it's affecting his shooting 100%. He still had 9 assists and 7 boards and played 42 minutes, just as many as Steph, but he also had 6 turnovers. So like, I don't know if he'll get any better on the road against this Warriors team that hopefully, has that killer instinct and finishes this one off. And I don't know if Mike Brown has any more kind of tricks or tweaks based on what he's seen from the Warriors. Like, I feel like he used those up, and there may be something, right? But at this point in the series, these guys are, both teams, they are who they are. And as you mentioned, the Warriors are, showing that they are the defending champions, and the Kings are showing that they are a very, very good team that will keep fighting, but just isn't there yet, which is what a lot of us thought, you know what I mean? And if they win in 6, then hey, my homer predictions are still on track.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty nice turnaround for this series, and I think maybe in some ways, like getting beat down 0-2 to the Kings when everyone was sort of picking the Warriors, like maybe that's in retrospect kind of a good trigger, right, to like get this sort of wake up call earlier, in the playoffs, because sometimes in the past we've gotten those wake up calls a bit too late, maybe in retrospect, this was actually a good thing,
Yeah. Clearly it had some kind of effect on them. And again, the Draymond suspension, that is such an afterthought, but yeah, that's going to go down as, I think they would have won game 3 anyway, but it certainly mobilized the team, their little just us chant. And I think it speaks to the intensity that they've played with since. Although after game 3 and game 4, in game 4 they kind of took the foot off the pedal a little bit until they finally pulled it out after some funny gaffes at the end. But this is a really impressive game, and this is the most impressed I've been with this team all season. They've had some good games during the regular season, beating the Grizzlies twice, Celtics, whatever. But again, a playoff game is a different level, and it's on the road. This team has not been a good road team at all, obviously. Again, they were 11-30 on the road?
Yeah.
Like, that's disgusting. Actually, it's funny, right? If they finish the series off, and then the Lakers win. The Warriors actually have home court advantage.
Yeah, I'm rooting like for maybe the first time in my life for the Lakers. I haven't. I've been watching the games, and I'm like legit rooting for them.
It's a weird thing, man, because I'm rooting for a 7-game series between Memphis and the Lakers. So, the game tonight, I was pulling for Memphis in Memphis because Lakers, we're up 3-1, and I was like, no, I don't want this to end. I want LeBron and AD and all those guys to have to play another game. I want John Morant to have to play another game and to keep going and going because, hey, you just want to wear guys down and whatnot. You know what I mean? So it's weird because I'm flip flopping. It's like it feels weird to root for them, and I don't know. I might have to like take a cold shower or something like that. Like
wash it off you.
Feeling. Yeah. Wash the stink of it off of me, man. But who would you prefer, hypothetically?
I think I prefer the Lakers. I think both for the travel, and I think that would just be like an amazing matchup to see. Is there a name for that matchup? Like I don't know, the I-5 Classic or something like
that. Not in basketball. Nah. Yeah. Not that I know of. Yeah. So I would love to see that, even though the Lakers worry me more than the Grizzlies, to be honest. But in a similar way, in my ideal scenario, I had wanted I wanted Steph to play Giannis's Bucks in the finals, and I had said that the Bucks are the team that worries me absolutely the most. There's other teams that are good that would be challenging, but they're the ones that really, really, I was like, I don't think the Warriors could beat them. I wanted to see it, but they choked tonight. I didn't even see that game because it was the same time as the Warriors game, but they were at home, down 3-1, had the game, 16-point lead going into the fourth, and lost in overtime.
That's unbelievable. I mean, the East is all blown up, so I don't have anything to say about that. I just saw the score. I didn't watch the game, so I'm gonna have to go back and sort of see what happened. But that is, I'm guessing Jimmy buckets. That'd be my guess, right? Without having seen it.
Jimmy Butler had 42 points, 17 for 33. Giannis had 38, 14 for 27, but 10 for 23 from the line. Yeah, that's
Yikes.
No good. That's not the best player in the world. You can't do that. But anyway, but this is not a Bucks or Heat podcast. But yeah, man. Any final thoughts?
I think the only thing I'm wishing for is Game 6 Clay baby. Let's see it.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask though, how worried were you when Steph went down with that shoulder?
I wasn't that worried. Because it looked like the way he got hit, it was more like getting the wind knocked out of him, okay. So it was like, I don't think he like bruised like a spleen or something like that. That would, that would be crazy. Cause I don't think that's it, cause then he would have had to come out right away for that,
I mean, but that's the shoulder he hurt. And that's why I was like, concerned, right? But
the hit wasn't really on the shoulder. It was kind of in the body. And then he was kind of holding his rib cage, so to me that sort of read more like, okay, wind knocked out of him, maybe it was the elbow or the wrist, that's sort of like, that went into that section.
I didn't realize that. So now that I'm hearing that, he was playing possum. He was trying to buy some time and then also see if he could sell the foul or get something out of it, because he looked fine after that, once he started playing and everything. So that was good, but super impressed with this one. Yeah, absolutely. You're back on the winning side, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, I'm not a bad luck charm. Good luck charm. Back to being good luck charm.
All right, man. Y'all can find Calvin on Twitter at Cali Calvin.
CALVIN. I think you've said that before too.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right, let's get Game 6.